We now return, once again, to the great assembly of compassion, as if stepping quietly back into a sacred moment that never truly ended, but has always been present, waiting patiently for us to notice. The light of compassion still shines in all directions, flowing beyond worlds, beyond time, beyond distance, touching beings whether they are aware of it or not. In every direction of space, the Buddhas of the 10 directions silently witness this gathering, their presence gentle, vast beyond imagination, and filled with boundless compassion. They do not speak loudly, yet their silent blessing reaches every heart still searching for peace. Yet within the assembly, many still wonder, from where does this extraordinary light arise? Who now radiates such power that countless worlds appear bathed in golden brightness? What compassionate force is strong enough to move even the heavens, yet gentle enough to comfort a single suffering heart? And so, with calmness and reverence, we enter once more this sacred atmosphere together. Let us leave behind, for a moment, the worries of our personal lives, and simply sit within this shared space of compassion and awakening. Let the mind become quiet again, as if seated among countless beings from many worlds, all gathered under the same field of compassion. Above, the Buddhas of the 10 directions shine like infinite stars, silently blessing every corner of existence. Around us, bodhisattvas, celestial beings, and unseen protectors remain present in stillness, not to judge, but to support all who seek freedom from suffering. And within this vast gathering, we too are here, not as outsiders, but as participants in the awakening of compassion. So now, take a slow breath and gently return to the sacred assembly within your own heart. For this assembly does not only exist in distant spiritual realms, it appears whenever compassion awakens inside us. And perhaps, as we sit quietly together now, the great assembly has already begun within each of us, without us even noticing. And from this quiet beginning, the teaching slowly unfolds. At that time, a radiant golden light suddenly spread across the entire assembly, illuminating worlds in all 10 directions. Mountains, oceans, heavenly realms, and distant lands alike appeared bathed in a single field of light. The brilliance was so vast that even the light of the sun, the moon, and the stars seemed to fade from sight. It was as if all forms of light returned to a greater source, a light born not from fire or energy, but from compassion itself. Celestial beings, dragons, protective spirits, and all gathered beings felt their realms tremble gently before this extraordinary presence. It was not fear, but awe, as if something deeply sacred had appeared, something rarely seen even across countless ages. Seeing such a rare and wondrous sign, Dharan King Bodhisattva rose respectfully from his seat, joined his palms, and with deep reverence addressed the Buddha, wishing to understand the source of this great and mysterious light. With humility and sincerity, he asked, "Who today has attained such perfect awakening, radiating light that fills all worlds, causing even the heavenly realms to glow in golden brilliance? Who now displays such boundless spiritual power that countless Buddha fields tremble with wonder? Is this light from a Buddha, from a great Bodhisattva, or from some celestial being acting for the benefit of all?" Then the Buddha, seeing the sincere question of Dharan, King Bodhisattva, spoke gently to the assembly. This great radiance comes from Avalokiteśvara Bodhisattva, whose compassion embraces all suffering beings, whose vows extend across countless worlds, and whose heart responds to every cry of pain. And as these words were spoken, the assembly understood that the light they witnessed was not a display of power, but the manifestation of boundless compassion. In the sutra, when the great light appears, the worlds tremble and all realms seem to shake gently. This description is not meant as a physical earthquake or disturbance in nature. It is a spiritual symbol. When great compassion arises, it shakes the foundations of ignorance and fear that living beings have carried for countless years. Everything we once believed to be fixed and solid begins to loosen. Hatred weakens, attachment softens, confusion slowly dissolves. Because compassion does not fight or destroy, it transforms, and where compassion appears, old patterns of suffering can no longer remain unchanged. This trembling also happens inside the human heart. Sometimes, a single moment of deep understanding changes how we see someone forever. Anger disappears, blame dissolves, and suddenly we see their pain instead of their mistakes. In that moment, our inner world trembles. Old judgments collapse and something softer emerges. The walls we built to protect ourselves begin to fall away. This is the trembling of awakening, the moment when darkness starts to give way to light. In meditation, when the mind finally becomes quiet, hidden pain often surfaces. Memories return, old wounds reappear. Long suppressed fears rise into awareness. At first, this feels uncomfortable, even frightening. But this shaking is not destruction. It is healing. Because only when pain is seen can it finally be released. And so, the trembling of worlds described in the sutra also reflects the trembling within us when suffering begins to loosen its hold. In modern life, we can see this truth clearly. When one person truly opens their heart, forgives sincerely, or helps another without condition, the atmosphere around them changes. Anger softens. Fear relaxes. People begin to feel safer. A single compassionate action can calm conflict, heal relationships, and restore hope in situations that once seemed hopeless. This quiet transformation often spreads far beyond what we can see. So the sutra reminds us that real spiritual power does not lie in miracles or supernatural displays. It lies in a heart that refuses to close, even in difficult situations. When compassion awakens in us, our small personal world changes. And through these small changes, the larger world also begins to change. The trembling of the universe is not destruction. It is awakening. The moment when suffering starts to lose its power and compassion begins to guide life forward. In many spiritual traditions, light symbolizes wisdom and love, while darkness represents confusion, fear, and ignorance. When the heart becomes closed by resentment, disappointment, or selfish desire, the mind grows heavy and unclear. We begin seeing others as obstacles or threats, rather than as fellow beings struggling in their own ways. But when compassion appears, something inside us opens. We start recognizing that everyone carries hidden wounds, fears, and silent hopes. From this understanding, wisdom naturally arises and perception becomes clearer. Thus, the light described in the sutra is not merely a miracle. but the radiance of a mind freed from self-centeredness. Where compassion grows, clarity naturally follows. Conflicts begin to soften, misunderstandings dissolve, and life feels lighter, both for ourselves and for those around us. Many times our suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by how tightly we hold on to hurt or anger. Compassion loosens that grip. It allows us to see situations from a wider perspective and respond with understanding instead of reaction. In this way, compassion becomes a source of inner light, gradually illuminating parts of life once covered by confusion. We recognize this light in ordinary life as well. Some people enter a room, and without saying anything, everyone feels more relaxed. Their presence feels warm, safe, and gentle. This is not magic. It is the quiet light of a compassionate heart. When someone lives not only for personal success, but also for the well-being of others, their energy changes. They listen more deeply, judge less quickly, and respond with patience. And this inner clarity naturally shines outward, creating peace in spaces once filled with tension. The sutra reminds us that true light is not something we search for outside. It is born when compassion awakens within. When we forgive ourselves, the heart feels lighter. When we forgive others, old burdens begin to fade. Compassion clears the heavy clouds of resentment and regret. Slowly, a quiet brightness appears inside. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, but gentle, like dawn arriving after a long night. And in that soft light, life becomes easier to carry. When Avalokiteśvara Bodhisattva reveals immense spiritual power in the sutra, it is not meant to display superiority or divine authority. True compassion never seeks recognition or admiration. Its only purpose is to relieve suffering. Avalokiteśvara manifests great light and presence so that beings lost in fear can rediscover hope, and those drowning in pain can find safety again. This power appears not to impress, but to protect and guide. Compassion moves quietly, appearing wherever suffering calls for help. In modern society, we often misunderstand what strength truly means. We admire wealth, influence, and the ability to control situations. But the sutra gently suggests a quieter form of strength. The ability to calm fear, the courage to forgive, the patience to listen when someone is hurting. These strengths rarely attract attention, yet they transform lives. A simple act of kindness can prevent despair. A moment of understanding can restore hope to someone who almost lost it. Perhaps the greatest power is simply this: to reduce suffering wherever we encounter it. When we comfort someone crying, stand beside someone afraid, or respond with kindness instead of judgment, we manifest the same compassion symbolized by Avalokiteśvara. And in doing so, we become small reflections of that boundless compassion within everyday life. Not through miracles, but through presence. Not through authority, but through care. And slowly, compassion begins to guide both our lives and the lives around us toward peace. In many sacred images, Avalokiteśvara Bodhisattva is depicted with 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes. Yet this form is not meant to describe a physical body. It is a symbol of boundless compassion reaching in every direction. The 1,000 eyes represent the ability to see suffering everywhere. No cry of pain is ignored. No being in distress is unseen. Even suffering that remains hidden behind smiles or silence is still perceived by compassionate awareness. And the thousand arms represent the ability to reach out and offer help wherever suffering appears. Compassion does not choose. It does not discriminate. It does not turn away. In reality, many people suffer quietly. They continue working, smiling, and fulfilling responsibilities while carrying heavy burdens inside. The thousand eyes symbolize the sensitivity to notice pain even when it is not spoken, to recognize sadness behind anger, fear behind harsh words, and loneliness behind withdrawal. And the thousand arms symbolize the willingness to respond gently instead of reacting with judgment. Sometimes compassion is not solving problems, but simply being present so someone does not feel alone in their suffering. In modern life, we often feel small and powerless before the suffering of the world. News of conflict, disasters, economic struggles, and personal loss appears daily. It feels impossible to help everyone. But the sutra reminds us that compassion does not always require great actions. Sometimes, simply listening to someone in pain is already healing. A kind message, a patient conversation, or a small helping hand can ease burdens we may never fully see. In this way, each of us can become one small arm and one gentle eye of compassion. And when many people act with kindness, the world itself becomes lighter. The thousand arms are not only divine, they are human hands helping one another. And the thousand eyes are human hearts learning to truly see each other's suffering. And perhaps, each time we choose compassion instead of indifference, another invisible arm of great compassion quietly appears in the world. In today's world, many people feel alone, even while surrounded by others. We communicate constantly, yet real understanding often feels distant. Messages travel instantly, but hearts remain separated. People smile in public, yet struggle quietly in private. Pressure grows from work, family responsibilities, and endless expectations. And slowly, many begin to feel that life has become something to survive rather than something to live. The noise of the world becomes so constant that we forget how silence feels and how deeply the heart longs for peace. Anxiety and uncertainty quietly follow us through daily life. Even during moments of rest, the mind keeps moving, planning, worrying, replaying old conversations, imagining future problems. Fear about the future often stays in the background of the mind. Will things work out? Will I lose what I have? Am I doing enough? And although society moves faster each year, many hearts grow heavier. Technology connects the world, but emotional loneliness continues to increase. We have more comfort, yet often feel less at ease. We now live in an age filled with knowledge, innovation, and endless information. Human intelligence has built extraordinary systems, machines, and networks. Yet despite all progress, something essential still feels missing. The world today does not lack intelligence. It does not lack resources. What we often lack is compassion, the simple willingness to understand and care for one another. Without compassion, intelligence becomes cold. Without compassion, success feels empty. Without compassion, relationships slowly lose warmth. The teaching of great compassion does not ask us to solve every problem or rescue everyone we meet. Instead, it invites us to begin right where we are, to soften our reactions, to listen before judging, to pause before speaking in anger. Sometimes compassion is simply patience. Sometimes it is silence. Sometimes it is choosing not to add more pain to an already difficult moment. These small decisions change the atmosphere around us, even if we do not notice it. A gentle response instead of anger. A moment of listening instead of criticism. A helping hand instead of indifference. These actions seem small, yet they often arrive exactly when someone needs them most. A single kind moment can soften someone's entire day. Sometimes it can even change the direction of a life. So perhaps in our ordinary lives, we can become one small arm of great compassion, bringing warmth into places where suffering still exists. And this compassion does not only flow outward. When we become kinder to others, we also become kinder to ourselves. We stop fighting our own mistakes. We forgive our own past. And slowly, inner tension begins to relax. Because compassion is not only for the world, it is also a way of healing our own hearts. And from this healing, peace naturally grows. Compassion clears the heavy clouds of resentment and guilt. And slowly, a quiet brightness begins to appear inside. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, but gentle. Like dawn arriving after a long night. When Avalokiteśvara Bodhisattva reveals immense power in the sutra, it is not to display superiority or divine authority. True compassion never seeks recognition. Its only purpose is to relieve suffering. Avalokiteśvara manifests light so beings lost in fear can rediscover hope, and those drowning in pain can find a path to safety. This power appears only when beings truly need help. Compassion moves not for glory, but for healing. In modern society, we often misunderstand what strength truly means. We admire wealth, influence, and control over situations. But the sutra suggests a quieter strength, the ability to calm fear, the courage to forgive, the patience to listen. These forms of strength do not make headlines, yet they change lives. A single act of kindness can save someone from despair. Perhaps the greatest power is simply this: to reduce suffering wherever we encounter it. When we comfort someone crying, when we stand beside someone afraid, when we offer understanding instead of blame, we manifest the same compassion symbolized by Avalokiteśvara. And in doing so, we become small reflections of that boundless compassion in our everyday lives. Avalokiteśvara is often depicted with 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes. This image is not physical, it is symbolic. The 1,000 eyes represent the ability to see suffering everywhere. No cry of pain is ignored. No being in distress is unseen. And the 1,000 arms represent the ability to reach out and help wherever suffering appears. In today's world, we often feel small before global suffering. Wars, disasters, economic struggles, personal losses. It feels impossible to help everyone. But the sutra reminds us, compassion does not require grand gestures. Sometimes, simply listening is already healing. A kind message, a patient conversation, a small helping hand. These acts ease burdens we may never fully see. Each of us can become one small arm and one gentle eye of compassion. And when many people act with kindness, the world itself becomes lighter. The 1,000 arms are not only divine, they are human hands helping one another. And the 1,000 eyes our human hearts learning to truly see each other's suffering. Before we end, let us rest together for a few quiet moments. There is nowhere else you need to go right now. Nothing more you need to solve. If you feel comfortable, place one hand softly over your heart. Feel the gentle movement of your breathing, rising and falling without effort. Allow the shoulders to relax. Allow the face to soften. And slowly, let the mind release the weight it has been carrying throughout the day. In this moment, you are safe. Nothing is missing. Simply allow the body and mind to rest. Now, bring to mind someone you know who may be going through difficulty or pain. Perhaps a friend, a family member, or someone silently struggling behind a calm appearance. Imagine them gently, without judgment, not trying to fix anything, but simply allowing them to be seen with kindness, as if your heart offers them a quiet space where they do not need to pretend to be strong. In this silent moment, let compassion arise naturally, like warmth spreading softly through the chest. As you continue breathing calmly, imagine sending them a gentle wish of peace, not with force, but with sincerity. A simple wish. May you be safe. May your heart feel lighter. May you find peace in your difficult moments. May your suffering gradually soften. And as this intention flows outward, notice something beautiful. Compassion also returns to your own heart. Remain in this quiet feeling for a few moments more. Notice how the heart feels when kindness appears. There is no rush to leave this space, and when you are ready, gently allow awareness to return to the room around you. Carry this sense of calm back into your day. Let compassion guide your words, your actions, and even your thoughts. And wherever life leads you next, may the quiet light of compassion continue to shine softly within your heart.